Hey everybody, I hope you're having a great week. Well, it's time for your weekly lecture in Intro to Lit online, and today we're going to depart from the movements in American literature. We'll come back to that hopefully next week, but today I want to talk to you about symbology. Since you're reading Ernest Hemingway's Hills Like White Elephants this week, many, if not most of you have already submitted your essay on that, but I want you to take some notes on symbology. And one thing I want you to realize is that nothing in a good piece of literature, nothing is there by accident. The descriptions, the wordings, and you want to really make sure that you're thinking about, okay, is the setting, are the words, are the characters' names, are they important beyond just their name? And do they suggest something? What are they saying? What do they add to the piece? You know, this morning in Humanities 2, I was talking to my class about the fact that we can appreciate a piece of artwork, and in your case it would be, we can appreciate Hills Like White Elephants just reading it once and thinking, okay, whoa, that's a cool piece. Oh my gosh, they're having a discussion about having an abortion. That's crazy. That was really intense. But when we stop and we look at the individual parts, the word choices, the setting, and we think about what that might mean and what additional meanings we can have, we move from a knee-jerk reaction or a surface level appreciation to a deeper understanding of the piece itself. So I want to look with you at just a couple of things in this text. And forgive me, I haven't figured all of this video out, so I'm reading the book and talking to you at the same time. Let's look at the introduction to Hills Like White Elephants together, shall we? All right. So it says, the hills across the valley of the Ebro. Let's just stop right there. And that's very important. You've already read this piece, right? Don't listen to this unless you do. But here we go. I've got this little hill right here, and I've got a valley right here. So I want to put hill. And this is hills, right? And valley. And I want to talk to you, make a list, if you will, or think about it, even mentally or on paper. Think about what hilltops or hills suggest, and think about what valleys suggest. All right, symbolically, if you're talking about a hilltop experience, you're talking about a high point in life. All right, you're talking about having a vantage point, high point, vantage point. You can see, right? You can see better, farther than someone in a valley. There's a huge vantage point, it being on the hilltop. To get to the hilltop, one has to work hard to get there. So it's symbolic of accomplishment. It's a symbolic of success or achieving a higher point in life. A valley, what you would already, I'm sure, be able to brainstorm here. Valleys represent low points in our lives, low points. And when you're in the valley, you can't see far off. So you have limited perspective. Write that down if you're taking notes on this. Limited perspective. Okay, and also, I don't know about you if you watch those John Wayne Westerns or stuff like that back in the day, but sometimes when I was growing up, I watched them, and sometimes I'll have a little penchant to watch a movie marathon or something. And every single time, these people on these horseback, they like ride into this, and they're in a valley with all these mountains going up, and everybody in the world knows there are people up there with bows and arrows or guns are going to shoot them down, because why? They can see them coming. The vantage point is on the hilltop, not in the valley. So you're limited, you're exposed. Okay, you have limited vision in the valley. It's considered a low point in life. Now I want you to think about this. This couple, where are they when this begins? They're in the valley. All right. There's a reason that he didn't have them on the hilltop. And there's also a reason that she mentions in the story that she looks across and she sees the hills. He doesn't say that just because he had nothing else to say. Or, oh, I might as well say oh yeah, there's some hills over there. He says those things because there she is in the valley making a major decision. And she looks over and she sees the hills and she realizes what she might have. So I want you to think about that with application, using symbology to better understand a piece, to enrich your reading of a piece. All right, one assignment that I have for you that I want you to do on your own is I want you to Google white elephant. Did anybody wonder Why this piece is called Hills Like White Elephants? Well, look up white elephant, and that's going to be one of your discussion board questions, I can assure you. And think about what that means and how that applies to this piece and the subject that they're discussing in this piece. All right. Sorry, I'm moving my hair and all of that. I'm moving around and trying to get all this done at one time. All right. It says on this side, there was no shade and no trees, and the station was between two lines of rails in the sun. Okay, let's go to no shade and no trees. Okay, symbolically, if there is no shade and there are no trees, there's no life. Trees represent life. Shade represents a shield from the intensity of the sun. And we're told here in this story that the sun's basically beating down on them. And they're trapped in between. And I'm not saying they're trapped as in they're caged in, but symbolically they're trapped in there between these railways, waiting on a train to come. There's a decision being made here, and there's not a lot of shade, and there are no trees where they are, and that's essential. Okay, so let's go on from there. No shade, no trees. And you guys that live in this part of the country, you know in the summer, when that sun beats down, what the sun can do to you. Write down the sun, because here we go symbolically. Sun. In most things that deal with nature, you can have a pro or a con or a positive or negative interpretation symbolically. So with the sun, let's look at positives. Okay, if we're doing symbology with the sun, what does the sun represent? The good things. Well, enlightenment. Enlightenment, right? It represents energy, life, right? Knowledge, wisdom, illumination. I mean, anything that has to do with the positive things about the sun. I mean, vitamin D, it makes us grow. But for those of you, like I said a minute ago, who have lived in this area of the country in the summer with no shade. One time I decided to get healthy and start walking and riding my bike. Lord, I did it in the middle of the summer. What was I thinking? There was no shade where I was. And soon I realized, here we go with the negative of the sun. Too much sun is bad for us. It can what? I mean, you can fill in the blanks here. Dehydrate us. Suck the life out of us. Wear us out. It's wearing. Okay, it can kill us. Too much sun can kill us, right? We can't bear under. Now, when you're dealing with nature and symbology, you have to apply it to the context of the piece. So what was meant here about the sun? Both of these things actually in this piece, that she's having an awakening of sorts. She's being enlightened as she looks around at the setting. She looks at the hills, and we're going to look a little bit in a minute. When you saw the grain, the fields of, that's seed. Whenever you're talking about grain, you're talking about life. When you're looking at the Ebro, you're talking about river. Okay, all of those things are symbolic. And let's go on to the next part of this piece. It said, to keep out flies. It's talking about this bamboo beads. I'm still in the introduction, everybody. But underline flies if you have that in your piece. That flies, what do flies represent? I'm not sure there's anything good that flies represent symbolically, but they symbolically represent death, decay, stench, filth. I mean, where there are flies, you know what I'm talking about. All of those things. So it's not by accident that these flies are here. Why would the author choose to include flies? There's a reason. It's contributing to the overall understanding of this play, what the intent is, what it is they're even discussing. You guys know what I mean? The baby, right? Many of you in your essays, you realize that they're talking about an abortion, the possibility of life versus the possibility of death. All right. So then it says, the girl with him sat at a table in the shade outside the building. It was very hot, and the express from Barcelona would come in 40 minutes. I heard someone say one time, in one class when we were talking about this, that some of the most important decisions that you make in your life, you make in a short period of time. Look at this next line. It says, it stopped at this junction for 2 minutes and went on to Madrid. Well, why would they even bother to tell us about the 40 minutes and the 2 minutes? And that's why. I mean, we decide life and death in the matter of minutes sometimes, and that's what's happening here. Ultimately, this is not a piece that we know the ending to. As a matter of fact, Hemingway keeps it open. We don't know if she goes on to have the abortion or not. There are little hints and suggestions throughout, and honestly, both sides could be defended. So as you write your discussion board answer to this and your discussion board piece to this, I want you to think about, okay, based on this setting, based on what's said here, based on what she's thinking and how she takes power back toward the end when she says, would you please, 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 please stop talking? Why did she say that? I mean, it seems to me like she's gaining some courage. I don't know. What do you make of it? Well, it kind of depends on how you see that conversation and how certain things come into play. In addition, guys, I know I'm running on 10 minutes here and I'm trying to keep this short, but there are several things along the way that kind of give us some understanding of these people. Remember, he's referred to as the American, and she's referred to as the girl. What's her name? We don't even know. We are told that he refers to her as Jig. That's not her name. That's just a little name that he has for her. Look at that word and take a look at what it means. What do you think Jig means? It's very, very interesting how he perceives her. Now, there's a section in here I'd like you to look at before we go on, and it's when she gets up and looks. Oh, here it is. On page 30, it says, the girl stood up and walked to the end of the station. Across on the other side were fields of grain and trees along the banks of the Ebro. That's a river. Far beyond the river were mountains. You hearing this? She's seeing what is possible. She's seeing what is available. She's seeing what life promises. The shadow of a cloud moved across the field of grain, and she saw the river through the trees. Let me assure you that these words are not here by accident. I mean, he is telling us about her period of enlightenment